Alejandro G. Iñárritu was how I heard it pronounced. Dane, do you want
Dane was like, that's cute.
Impeccable.
Go ahead. What do you pronounce it, Dane?
I think it's let me look it up. Iñárritu.
Okay, there you go. Still hurt by Robert Downey Jr.'s response to his belief that superhero films are cultural genocide. And that is a bold claim to make.
And back in 2014, which might have been before Marvel got as oversaturated as it is today.
So he made the movie Birdman, which is about basically a guy, like a washed up superhero actor.
It's like a dark comedy about him.
I didn't see it. I saw The Revenant. I haven't watched all his work, but basically he talks about Robert Downey Jr. weighed in on Iñárritu's. Dane?
Incredible, bro.
Tell me how it's pronounced.
I think it's Iñárritu.
Well, I can't do that.
Iñárritu. But I don't know if it's Spanish pronunciation, the vowels, you know.
He weighed in on his comments in 2015 during an interview with The Guardian to promote his turn as Iron Man in the Marvel blockbuster Avengers.
Well, I want to just say what he said at the time.
Yeah, go ahead.
In 2014. He said, I don't respond to those characters. They've been poisoned because the audience is so overexposed to plot and explosions and bleep. That doesn't mean nothing about the experience of being human. Couldn't agree more.
And the funny thing
personally,
is, if you look up his, I thought this was really interesting. If you look up his Wikipedia, it says for his page, it says he's credited from 2014. He says as a Mexican filmmaker and screenwriter, he is primarily known for making modern psychological films about the human condition. So he clearly cares very deeply about that. But that's not what superhero movies are supposed to be. But I don't disagree with a lot of his
Why
claims
aren't
here.
superhero movies supposed to be that, though? Shouldn't that be any film?
No.
Even unintentionally, a story written... I mean, you can't not write a human story. It's, you're incapable of it.
Let me go back to his...
you shouldn't specifically avoid that, right? But I think even when this director attempts to write stories about the human condition or do art installations like the one I was looking at earlier about the human condition, he sometimes misses the mark and, you know, in all fairness, deserves criticism for that. But I don't think that goal in particular is mutually exclusive with certain genres.
And Robert Downey Jr. noted that he respects the heck out of him, but mocked him for his Spanish roots by saying, for a man whose native tongue is Spanish, to be able to pull together a phrase like cultural genocide just speaks to how bright he is. That feels like a pretty hot, spicy take from...
In 2015.
From a guy like Robert Downey Jr., who's a pretty diplomatic
What confuses me, though, is that I don't know what angle he's going for. Because he can be the angle of, well, you have a Spanish name and the Spaniards were colonizers, the OGs, or you have a Spanish name, thus you're a victim. So I'm really lost between the context of what he's trying to say.
Downey Jr. is good at saying really offensive things in a charming way, so people are like, "Oh, it's okay if you can be darkly humorous and insult people's heritage if you can do it in a charming way."
And
seems
but in
like
text,
he
it
took
doesn't
it
translate.
pretty hard.
The director responded. He says, it was like, you guys from your banana country. If I were from Denmark or Sweden, I might be seen as philosophical, but when you're Mexican, you're seen as pretentious.
I got to say, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, I got mad respect for this dude. I wholeheartly agree with this statement that superhero movies have just completely blown the plot. And it's all about it's about spectacle, the loss of like Spider-Man is about the human condition. That guy is about losing his uncle and then being forced, like, what have I done? I didn't stop evil when I had the chance, and now I suffer because of it. And now he fights evil.
But even
his reasoning behind disliking superhero, like as just a word, is interesting. He said, what the F does that mean? It's a false, misleading conception, the superhero. Then the way they apply violence to it, it's absolutely right-wing. If you observe the mentality of most of those films, it's really about people who are rich, who have power, who will do the good, who will kill the bad. Philosophically, I just don't like them. Now, if you look at a movie like Samaritan, it's the exact opposite of what he just said.
I also want to point
So he is kind of painting with a broad brush, and I don't think that's fair.
I also want to know what he means by the violence is right wing and what that has to do with being rich, because if we're being honest, the left is the party of billionaires in the corporate structure now, so he's wrong about that. If you were talking about the military-industrial complex back in the day, maybe that would be a more apt comparison. But there is a weird dynamic that I've noticed that, have you ever seen that meme that says, it's like, if I was Elon Musk and I was worth like $80 billion, you could just be, no, they say it about Jeff Bezos because that's somehow a weirder comparison. Like, dude's worth like $80 gazillion. Why doesn't he just be like Batman? Which just proves to you that they don't know how money works and that not all your money is liquid assets.
Well, they also
superheroes are fake.
Yeah, they conflate fictional stories that they watch with the real world,
because Harry Potter is their Bible. And also I want to point out that this is one of those things that they have this almost weird power fantasy of what they would do if they were a billionaire. They would be they imagine themselves as this protector of the innocent, blah 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 blah. But what they always fail to realize is you can do good in your community without being a billionaire. But it doesn't mean that you have the right to tell other people how to live their life or spend their money. I just feel like and they're right about one thing. They are always, these characters, they're always geniuses and they're always rich, right? So that's not untrue.
My issue with this is, so the reason why superhero movies are so predominant, obviously, is because of Marvel and they're like a legendary IP, and thus people were excited to see some of their favorite childhood their favorite childhood stories being brought on the big screen with genuinely incredible actors. However, that aside, when you average up all the superhero movies in terms of ratings and enjoyableness, even the worst modern superhero movie is not as bad as all the Yas Queen girl boss stuff. And I feel that some directors need to take a look in the mirror, and it's like, well, you're losing to men in tights pretending to fly. Yep. And that's because that's how empty the plot is in your stories. Yep. Because I don't think most people aren't prone to relate to that. Most people, when I was young, would make fun of the nerds for liking stuff like that.
They don't want to go and be told a deeply complex story all the time. They want to go and turn their. I know Mary has a problem with going to a movie theater and turning your brain off for 2 hours, but that doesn't mean they're not, like you said, that doesn't mean there aren't human stories being told there if they're done right, like.
If they're done right.
Yeah, like...
but I don't like the implication that just because it's a superhero film, they're incapable of that, and it has to be superficial.
No, and The Dark Knight is evidence against that. Yeah. Because, as you often say, the directors and the actors elevated the source material to a level, and they took it with a seriousness that it deserves. And one day, I hope that the same treatment, because it didn't happen overnight. Like, superhero movies were god-awful for a long while.
Many decades.
For a long while. And I hope that video games one day, like, really have that moment where they break the mold and they genuinely have great actors, speaking of a great plot.
I got a question for you. Do you think video games are, by their nature, harder to adapt?
Yes, because a lot of the relation that I always talk about Final Fantasy VII because it's a very popular game, and it's kind of like a theatrical game, and famously one of the protagonists dies within that game. Spoilers, lol. But the thing is, my relation with her was not only because she was charming, she was likable, but I played her. She was one of my favorite characters. She was a wizard. She was really good. I used her to conquer a lot of challenges that I found difficult. And she died, and I couldn't use her anymore. I was like, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, she was one of my top 3 characters. And it's hard to kind of... because you can have the loss of, I'm going to miss her dialogue, I'm going to miss her interactions, but you'll never have, in a movie sense, the loss of, damn, I can't use those super dope magic stats or that limit break, you know?
It's kind of like losing an arm.
Basically, you're losing a tactic that you're using. And that's just one example. But the thing is, in games, you play as you are. I like magic, just like conceptually the idea of it. And so I like magic users. And let's say in a movie that they got transcribed, they got like a super giga chat to play a character that in a game that I don't like, and some loser to play a character that I do like. Well, then I'm gonna have an issue with the movie inherently, where as a video game fan is like, hey, you messed up my favorite character. Whereas people that are just jumping into the medium simply because of the movie, they're gonna be, no, this movie's great because like legendary giga chat's in it.
Can I ask? I'm gonna like. So you think that video games are by their nature hard to adapt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like from a book to a video game or a movie. You're saying it's harder to go to a video game?
No, like saying taking a comic book and making it a movie would be easier than taking a video game and making it a movie because of the interactive element to it, perhaps.
My dream would be either a long form series or a series of movies of the Final Fantasy VI game, because I feel it's truly when I explain the story to people and I lie and I tell them it's a book instead of a game, they always tell me, man, like I need to read this. And then when I was like, Jake's on you, it's actually a game.
Jake's on you.
It like blows their minds because they're like, I had no idea that a game could be that interesting or a story could be that deep.
Yeah.
In a game.
I also want to point out that this director, there's kind of some stuff about him that's after my own heart, meaning a lot of it's like he's real sensitive to like critique of his work. And I understand that kind of implication. So,
but I think he's sensitive to a critique of his comment more than his work.
Well, yeah, because like down here it says, where did I just lost where I was talking about here?
And also on the grounds of identity, which
when you make it about your identity, you're going to be it's going to be a lot harder to take critique.
Think that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be held to account for what he said now that like sensitivities have changed?
No, I don't.
It's been 7 years or so since he said that.
I think this will come to pass and it'll blow over. And I of course I lost my.
You know what they should do? I think is they should make the Incredible Hulk go completely insane in the next movie. Make it really dark. Have him kill.
Well, they can't do that now that they've made him out to be a complete soy boy in the series.
They need to fix it. So then he kills like a really loved hero, and then he gets hooked on like a opiate or something when he's Bruce, and he's just a mess. They need to destroy that guy to make him interesting again.
They did a storyline like that with in DC with Green Arrow and not Artemis, was it Speedy? Like where like he abandons like his sidekick because he gets addicted to drugs. This is back in the 70s. But also I want to point out like they can't do that now. Like when Tim found out that they were doing Daredevil at Marvel, right? Like that they took Daredevil with Charlie Cox and brought him over to Marvel to play the same character. I told him like, dude, it's not going to be this. It's not going to be good. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, well, it's like he's playing the same character. He's playing Daredevil. I'm like, what they made at Netflix was allowed to be dark because it was made at Netflix. What they're going to make at Marvel at Disney will never be allowed to be that way because Disney has a brand to uphold, and they will change the character. Sure, he's portraying the same character, but it's going to have mild tweaks. There's going to be jokes where there was never jokes before.
Disney is so trigger happy with censorship after it's already released too.
Yes.
They can't step out of bounds.
Take that, Hannah Claire.
Thank you, guys.
Ha ha ha.
Love you,
Did
Hannah.
she say all of the movies or just one?
All of the movies.
Oh, did you just say 2000?
We're at 20?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bro, I think we're going to get to Macarena. This is crazy.
party.
Like, take that, Hannah Claire. You're doing it.
So what's the best Fast
Everyone
and the Furious?
loses.
I think Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift.
I've been wanting to watch
original.
Tokyo Drift, actually.
I like it.
The original.
The first one.
The very first one.
I still haven't seen it. I guess maybe I should glance.
I at the very least watch the first one because if you like it becomes so absurd afterwards that it's not even the same thing. The first one is a genuinely good summer cop blockbuster film. It's very good. After that, they get more and more ridiculous, and I love every single bit.
It's the main actor. He died. What was
Paul
his?
Walker.
Paul Walker.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy.
So
was
they've
something.
got another one in the works right now with Brie Larson.
And
do you know when that's coming out?
Jason Momoa next year.
Oh.
Okay.
And Jason Momoa gets to play the bad guy.
I hope Brie Larson has a research. I hope she gets an opportunity to like make good on just like do a good role because she's a good actor.
I disagree.
Thoughts
with
on that, Dave?
You think she's a bad actor?
I don't think she's
a babe.
I have yet to see the evidence. I'm open to it, but I don't believe that
Scott
she's,
Pilgrim. What's it called?
Yeah. Scott Pilgrim Saves the World.
Her role in that was relatively small, though.
I mean, she was cool in it.
It was cool, though.
And I'll be fair, I haven't seen that movie that she won the Oscar for.
Oh, I didn't know she won an Oscar.
It's like Room or
did.
The Room or something like that. Not the Tommy Wiseau Room, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was like,
want
what?
her in some hard female strongman character, dumb crap. I want to see her get busted up and then come back and be stronger, or maybe even get killed off. You know, like something awesome where you remember it.
It's just
Harvey
people,
Celis.
and I play people. That's a quote
What'd you
she
call it?
had.
Harvey Celis.
Wait,
that?
what?
From
She's
Final
like-
Fantasy 6.
Just people, and I play people.
What
Like,
about
she just sounds
Did
like-
Harry Styles say that?
No.
Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing.
That's a very.
I
good-
just play pretend.
That's a very good Harry Styles.
Yeah, she would carry.
impersonation.
If she played Celis, if you know Final Fantasy VI, she would carry that movie. Like she would be the lead because that's one of 3 characters that's kind of the lead. That's the great thing about Final Fantasy VI is there's multiple
you.
storylines and multiple leads interwoven. It is one of the best stories ever written, I think, that I've ever read.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.